I'll give you a clue. It was Grimsby.
They are pressing quite well. What's happened there? You've got to be joking.
Oh, sorry, I've done it the wrong way around, so I've drawn an arrow and I haven't seen it, sorry.
He must have a horseshoe up his ass.
If we're playing on professional and that's happening for Barcelona...
2 years ago. Sorry about that, I don't know what that was.
I'm sorry, that's just put me off the game. I'm not having that.
Anyway, segue, moving on.
What has that got to do with football? Why is that at a football ground?
Hello and welcome along to this very special 2019 African Cup of Nations preview show from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Daniel Cody and joining me this week is Charlie Betts.
Yes, you did not. Your ears did not deceive you. It is just Daniel and me this week. Rumours are flying around that Craig is obviously not with us because he cheated me out of a point in our EFL and non-league prediction show, review, whatever you want to call it.
And conveniently, he finished a point above you.
Yes, yeah, he finished a point above me and then he cheated me out of a... No, he didn't really, no. No, Craig's not with us tonight, so you'll just start with me and Dan, and we're going to do all things African Cup of Nations, aren't we?
Yes, so the tournament is starting next Friday as we record this.
Could I just interject very quickly as well? From our rambles, we do find that African football can be quite temperamental.
Yes.
So whatever's said now, we're recording this a week before.
Politically may not be the case.
No, exactly. In a week's time, a lot can change, as has been proven.
As we're about to explain, with who's hosting the tournament.
Yeah, there we go, go on.
So, the 2019 African Cup of Nations is quite an interesting one in many ways. Firstly, it's a saviour for British football fans and football fans across Europe because it's been moved to the summer for the first time.
Which has helped a lot of clubs anyway, because it used to be, February was it?
Yeah, so it was about mid-January the squads met up and then the tournament went on to mid-February. So it means that we don't lose a lot of players from the Premier League and Football League and non-league in some cases here. And more importantly for us, as we've got the Women's World Cup, we've now got the African Nations Cup and the Gold Cup that we can watch this summer as well.
So, as you alluded to earlier, Dan, there's obviously been quite a debacle with who's hosting the tournament, which is... you got a bit more on that, or...?
I have got a little bit more on that. So, coincidentally, and it was pure coincidence, because you asked the same question before, was it a coincidence that Cameroon, the current holders of the African Nations Cup, were due to be hosting it this year? And yes, it was a coincidence. They were one of 3 teams who had bids accepted and were in the final process, and they were alongside Algeria and Ivory Coast. Cameroon were awarded the tournament in January 2014. Unfortunately, there have been some political incidences, as is quite often the case in African football and federations. Unfortunately, football doesn't do the talking a lot of the time.
No.
So as a result of that, at the last minute, after much speculation, which we talked about throughout the season in the Rambles, on the 8th of January this year, Egypt were chosen by...
Is it CAF?
CAF, it is CAF,
yes,
there we go. On a committee to be the host nation of the tournament. But as a result of that, the tournament was then put back by a little bit. 6 days, in fact, it was put back due to Egypt being a largely Muslim country and obviously celebrating Ramadan and then Eid. So it was put back a little bit for that.
So is Egypt chosen because I suppose in terms of African football, they probably have a fairly well-structured league and stadia and all of that?
I was going to say, they're probably one of the only ones who have a good stadium infrastructure in place. One of the problems with Cameroon, alongside a couple of political things, were the fact that they were so behind in their development and building of stadiums and training facilities and guest facilities as well. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is the fact that this, for the first time, is an expanded tournament.
Yes, which is good. More teams is more football.
And that's one of the benefits of it being outside the main football season in Europe, is they get a chance to have a bigger tournament.
Well, I think, not with all due respect, especially in some of these developing countries, for them to have more of a chance, to play on the big stage, rather from, 16 to 24 now, has it gone?
Yep, so a bit like the European Championships recently, it seems to be happening with a lot of the continental competitions. But the good thing also with 24 teams, which we'll mention in a little bit, is the fact that you also get more new teams, which we saw in the Euros a few years ago, and we're probably going to see this year in the African Nations Cup, which will be introduced in the debutants soon. The other thing to mention in Egypt is there are 4 host cities, 1 massive stadium. There was a little bit, even within Egypt, there was a debacle about what stadiums were going to be in place. There were 2 replacements in the last 3 months before the tournament, but it is all in place now. There are only going to be 6 venues used across 4 different cities.
Only 6? So literally 1 per group then?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, okay. I suppose scheduling, yeah, fair enough. Okay, what else you got for me then, Dan?
In terms of the overview of the tournament, the next thing I wanted to talk about is something that you're very hot on in every competition we cover, which is sponsorship.
Yes, go for it.
So, in terms of sponsorship this year, we've got a bit of an interesting sponsor, because it's not a sponsor for this tournament, it's an 8-year sponsorship package from July 2016 up to 2024, and it is the French oil company Total, which obviously you'll see petrol stations dotted around the country in England as well. So they are more of a direct sponsor from the Confederation of African Football, so they are supporting 10 of its principal competitions rather than just the African Cup of Nations.
Okay, so like the different age groups and all of that and things like that. Okay, right.
So they started with the African Cup of Nations that was held in Gabon, the last one, and therefore it's now renamed the Total Africa Cup of Nations. So in terms of sponsorship, it actually works.
That works quite well, rather than, what was it, there was one recently, wasn't there? Was it La Ligue or Ligue 1?
Ligue 1 in France, not next season, but from the season after, will be called Ligue 1 Uber Eats.
Oh, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. No, Total is a much better sponsor.
And it actually just sounds like total football.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
Another thing that you're also very hot on normally is prize money.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we normally talk about this in teams, but this is in terms of football federations. And we know in Africa there's so often strikes and protests.
And finances in African football aren't always as clear cut,
particularly between players and federations.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm not quite sure why looking at the prize money figures, because for the champions of the African Nations Cup, this is in US dollars, how much do you think they'll make? I mean, I reckon you're going to go too high here.
Around 10 million?
Nowhere near. So maybe that's why there is African Nations football problems. It's $4.5 million US dollars.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay.
I just assumed because it was I suppose actually that makes sense. Yeah.
But one of the things that does make it better is it's actually pretty well spread going down as well. So I've got down to quarterfinals. So the runners up, $2.5 million US dollars.
Oh, okay.
Semi-finalists, $2 million US dollars.
Each, obviously.
Yeah, and quarter-finalists, $800,000 US dollars. So there's not as much of a gap down, like where somewhere like the FA Cup in England, for example. You
do hope, though, without going into too much political stuff, that whatever money is accrued from this tournament, it does get filtered down to maybe where it should be, or to the future of the game in that country, or.
And unfortunately, that's quite often the problem in certain countries in the developing world, is it doesn't get to where it needs to be.
Exactly,
it doesn't help people in the communities.
Yeah.
I want to move on, if I can, to the one part of the overall tournament which you have a specific interest in, which is the mascot.
Yes, yeah. Who I assume is pronounced Tut or Tut.
Yes.
Named after Tutankhamun, obviously the Egyptian pharaoh being in Egypt. He's a child, and his shirt looks like the Egyptian shirt, but it's got like the map of Africa on it.
Yeah.
Which, considering they've only had a few months to knock it up, was quite not a bad effort actually.
I was going to say, in terms of some of the absolute shambles we've seen in recent, like Olympics and European Championships and World Cups and things, it's actually a pretty good one considering, as you say, they got the tournament.
I will say, at least it actually resembles something as well. You know, like recently, some of them it's literally like someone's just drawn, like a 4-year-old's drawn it, whereas this is actually, it looks like a proper thing.
It's smart, it's cultural, and it represents the continent
country,
and the nation.
Exactly,
great. But the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the overalls of the tournament, before we get on to the teams that have qualified in the groups, is the match ball. Because what's more important, as we've established in our fine series, than the football?
Exactly, which has to be there.
And according to local FAs in England, many, many, many things. But for us, we're worried about the football. So, you will be pleased to know, as a football purist, and if Craig was here, he would have been pleased to know,
as head of football,
the official match ball supplier of the African Cup of Nations has always, in recent years, been Mitre.
Okay. I like a good Mitre ball.
Everyone loves a good Mitre ball.
Ulti-match, yeah.
However, due to a dispute and an outbidding process...
It's not going to sound weird, is it? Like Kipster or something like that?
From this year, the African Cup of Nations official football will be from Umbro.
Oh, Umbro!
It is called the Neo Pro, and it was unveiled on the 29th of May 2019, and the large portions of the design, because it was made slightly before the ball was confirmed, is what you can see underneath the Pharaoh's foot in the mascot.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Logo.
It's very good. I didn't know that. Yeah, I haven't seen an Umbro football a proper big tournament for.
No. I mean in England, I guess we're just used to Mitre the whole time, or Nike in the Premier League.
That's true. I remember back in the 90s, I think, was it randomly United had an Umbro football when everyone else had to use a Mitre one? I never understood what that was. I don't know if anyone knows that, but it was really odd.
And let's be fair, you may have just made it up.
No, I'm sure they did. Maybe it's friendly.
Maybe it's competition, something like that.
Yeah, it might have been that actually. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah. No, good Umbro football. I like a good Umbro football.
So certainly some interesting things going on in the tournament, but obviously the main headlines are the fact that it's in the summer and it's expanded to 24 teams. So I wanted to move on to the teams that had qualified for the competition. Obviously, as we've mentioned, it's an expanded tournament, so that does mean that we've got the chance for more debutants.
Yes.
And this year we have 3.
Okay.
So do you know who they are, Charlie? I'm guessing not. Or
No.
do you have your notes handy?
Well, Madagascar I'm going to gamble on.
Madagascar are the first debutants.
Mauritiana?
Are the second debutants. You're not going to do this, surely.
No, I'm out on the third one.
Burundi are the third.
Burundi.
And we're going to mention a very special player they've got in their squad in a few moments' time.
So how does it work in terms of qualifying before we go through the individual groups? I know you said it was similar to the Euros. So there's 24 teams, obviously 6 groups.
6 groups of 4. So it's
getting to a round of 16, basically.
So for those who have followed it, it's almost identical to the Euro 2016 process with 24 teams. So we'll have 6 groups of 4. The top 2 will go through as usual. Third place teams, all 6 of them will be put into their own mini group at the end. A bit like we're having the qualifying for the Euros and that as well.
Yeah.
And the top 4 will go through to the last 16.
Okay.
Now those 4 teams, Charlie, will be separated on tiebreakers, just as teams will in the group if need be. And those tiebreakers start as you'd expect, and then get down to the ones we very rarely see, but obviously are a bit more interesting.
So I would assume goal difference, that sort of thing, would be...
So first, head-to-head matches.
Okay, right,
Head-to-head records, a bit like
you don't
Champions
tend to get
League.
that in England as much, do
I
you?
mean,
It's not
Champions
really,
League, really.
it's not really a British thing, is it? But they seem to like it elsewhere. Okay, yeah.
Second, goal difference in head-to-head matches.
Oh, so just between the two teams?
So if it's 2 and the team who are second and third with the same record, what was their goal difference against each other?
Wow.
Goals scored in head-to-head matches, so everything's in head-to-head before it goes into the whole group. Fourth, if more than 2 teams are applied, after applying, I'm reading this rule directly, okay? Before you say what sort of language is this, and after applying all head-to-head criteria above, a subset of teams are still tied.
Subset.
All head-to-head criteria above are reapplied exclusively to this subset of teams.
Oh, so it goes again.
So let me break that down for you. If there's 3 teams with the same record, they do it for all 3.
Yeah. Right, okay. If we get past that though, which I mean, you've got to be very unlucky to get past that. So if we get
past that, we then get the 2 you see in England the most. So goal difference against all teams in group matches and goals scored in all teams.
Which by the sounds of it, you've got to have an unbelievable turn of events to get that far, right?
And if you get that far and you really get to that stage, it does sort of show that everyone runs out of ideas.
Right, okay.
Because number 7 is drawing of lots.
So like straws, basically.
To be fair, that's only 1 away from the Premier League. Number 8's drawing of lots in the Premier League.
Oh, okay.
So it's not quite as weird as it sounds.
No.
But eventually, when we get to that stage, someone will have to think of something.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it'd be like tossing of the coin or whatever. Right. Should we start with the groups and go through from there?
Let's go through. We'll pick along as the favourites as we go through.
Okay.
And obviously, you'll probably be a star of some key players in the squad.
Not
I'll pick out the lower league.
I was about to say, you'll be able to shed some light on the more niche players. Right, so Group A, you've got obviously the holders Egypt, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda and Zimbabwe. Just really quickly on the Congo, by the way. After we said we were going to do this...
Congo.
Yeah, DR Congo, exactly. Obviously, I knew there was 2 Congos, but I didn't know the history behind it, and that sent me down quite a wormhole. I didn't come out for a good hour or so about the history of the Congo and all of that. So,
without making it an hour, do you want to...
No, I don't. No, they were identified by their different capitals like Congo, Brazzaville and all of this, but anyway. So, obviously, just Egypt you would assume would have qualified because of hosting it, but they had already qualified because obviously they didn't know they were hosting it.
Yeah.
So, in the interest of fairness, I think that's quite good that they qualified by the proper means.
They've obviously got a couple of superstars.
Yeah,
I say superstars. One of them isn't quite a superstar, but okay.
Yeah, Uganda also breezed through their group, so they topped it. I mean, they got beat 3-0 on the last day, but I think we covered that in our ramble a while back. That they pretty much put out a reserve team because they didn't need to...
Just want to say, because one of the things as we go along is almost every team has a player from the English Football League or Premier League or non-league in some occasions. Uganda, I will mention some of the bigger ones in a minute in this league, but Uganda have Yeovil Town's Beavis McGarvey.
Oh, okay.
Great player, centre half, came through at Southampton, and he is going to be one to watch. Got 2 caps, recently moved over because obviously he's English born, but just players to look out for as we go along. I'll pick out the lower league ones every time.
And obviously then, so you had Zimbabwe and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So they, I think the Democratic Republic of Congo, I'll just say DRC if that's right. Yeah, they topped their groups with 11 points. So it'd be that you've got 3 group winners in there. So I think Zimbabwe might be looking probably the weakest.
They've also got a player as a West Ham fan you might be looking out for.
Go on.
Arthur Masuaku.
Oh right, yeah, of course, yeah, no, definitely. But the Welsh Premier League has a representative in the Zimbabwe team.
You are correct by that. Let me just go and find his name.
And his name is Alex. I'll forgive pronunciations for us before we even begin. Alec Mudimu. Mudimu of Kefin Druids. Are you familiar with him at all, Dan? Or?
I'm not, I'm afraid.
No.
A man I am familiar with is Nottingham Forest right back, Tendai Darikwa.
Right,
Apologies
okay.
for pronunciation again. He played for Burnley when they went into the Premier League, so didn't get many games there. but he is a good, well-known player.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a thing to go from playing like Connor's Key Nomads to then suddenly being up against.
Yes.
I mean, especially talk about Egypt, Mo Salah potentially.
Well, that's the main man we were going to highlight.
He's a defensive player. This Alec Mumidou. So yeah. So I mean, that's cool. I think that's the beauty of that.
I mean, it's fair to say that the pronunciation is going to get down to
not going to get any better. So
if anyone of African descent is watching it, I can only apologise on behalf of myself and Charlie.
I mean, Egypt, on paper are probably favourites. I personally don't think they will. There's another team later on we'll talk about. I think we've got a better chance.
So
to win
often when I was growing up as a teenager, there was Egypt were never the favourites, but they ended up winning it. They've got there's something special. Their team spirit on home soil as well.
Yeah,
and they've got experienced, steady pros at the back. Hagazi from West Brom.
Yeah,
Ahmed El Mohammadi, the captain from Aston Villa.
That's right. Yeah.
So
who was he used to play up front for Wigan.
Amizaki.
That's it. Yes.
And Vido as well.
Yeah, Vido as well. Yeah, they've had some cracking players. Yeah, I mean, I suppose in terms of a possible upset, I think Uganda could possibly win the group. I think it's fair to say that them and Egypt will most definitely go through.
Well, that's the question we need to ask really as we go along. Is I think we have to put our necks on the line and say who do we think the top two are going to be?
I think Egypt will be too strong. But I think Uganda will make a good. The game between them, Egypt and Uganda. That's obviously it will probably be a group decide, but I think that'll be a great game to watch as well. What I love about the African Cup of Nations in general, I'm sure you'd agree, is just constant attacking football. Like, defensively is more of a second afterthought, isn't it?
I know we've mentioned that vuvuzelas aren't great at times, but the atmosphere generally in the stadium is unbelievable. And I hope that's not ruined by the fact that it was a late organisation.
Yeah,
ticket selling would have been more
I think because of the infrastructure we mentioned about, I think they'll be alright. But yeah, I think for me, Egypt-Uganda, that's the game to watch.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit different to you here. And I'm going to... It's the only shock I've gone for in the whole tournament in the group stages. I don't think Egypt are going to be in the top two. I still think they'll get through, finishing in third place. But I think DR Congo are going to sneak in, purely on the basis of them having Britta Sombalonga.
Oh, okay, Britta Sombalonga. I suppose, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't profess to know enough about Egyptian football, but are they as much a one-man team where if you stop Salah, is that Egypt finished?
Because I'll just name you some other names. Yannick Bolasie.
No, I'm sorry, I'm on about Egypt.
Egypt.
If you stop Salah playing, have you stopped Egypt playing? Do you know?
I don't know about that. We saw it in the World Cup, but obviously this is a completely different stage.
Yeah.
But DR Congo have got a really good side.
Yeah, so you're going for it, yeah. So Yannick Bolasie.
And they've got Yannick Bolasie, they've got Cedric Bakambu, who used to play for Villarreal. He's now moved over to China for big money. And one of their other young strikers is playing for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga. They've got Birmingham City midfielder, Jacques Magoma.
Right. And
in the Scottish Premier League, a name you might remember from West Brom and Norwich, Yusuf Malumbu.
I saw him get sent off once, actually, yeah. He's not a bad player, though. I've always rated Malumbu.
Former Newcastle defender Chancellor Mbemba.
Oh, right, yes.
There's so many names you recognise.
Brilliant, isn't it? It's his Championship Manager
and obviously,
Gold. Football Manager Gold.
Football Manager Gold, and obviously we mentioned Masuaku already as well.
Yeah.
So probably not the most eagerly anticipated group of the lot, and it never is the one with the host nation in, but I think it's going to be quite a good group between those three sides, as they're all much closer ranked than it's probably let on.
I imagine that the third team in that will make it through. I think it's going to be quite...
I agree.
Group B. So, Group B, we have Nigeria, Guinea, Madagascar and Burundi, which is a bit of a shame because you got two of the new debutants in the same group. But maybe that's a good thing, I don't know.
Well, one of them's going to finish third.
Yeah, that's true.
If they get a win against each other, then it means they're going to get through, hopefully.
Yeah.
Madagascar, obviously, I let it know 6 months ago, the team I'm going to be supporting in this tournament.
But they've had quite an interesting journey, haven't they? Because like we were discussing off air just before this, and I think we might have mentioned it in a previous ramble, that given the heritage and that of a lot of players who play in France, which actually turns out from Madagascar, I think they've been quite clever at recruiting players who maybe aren't quite good enough for the French national team, which obviously is an incredible, standard and number of players they've got to choose from, and actually offering them international football, which you'd be a fool to turn down. So there might be an outside bet to get through that group,
So they're actually in the stage now where they've got, I think, 8 players in the squad from the French top 2 tiers. I think most of them are the second tier, but they're still good professional footballers. Yeah. They've got a couple from the Belgian league as well, and one name that I recognise again from old Football Manager is Jeremy Morel, who's at Lyon, and he was one of the best left backs in the world coming for a few years.
Well, you got to remember Madagascar. So Nigeria and Guinea won their group, as you probably expect Nigeria to.
I mean, Nigeria are going to be outstanding favourites, aren't they?
Yeah, but Madagascar were in a qualifying group in which they just picked Gabon to getting through, so they're no mugs. I think it says here they took 10 points in the first 4 games, so I don't think they're to be sniffed at, as a chance to get through.
I think a lot of the games will actually be quite close there, and after Nigeria, presuming Nigeria turn up, we'll talk about the squad in a minute, I think the other 3 are going to be pretty close.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's the beauty. I think That's what I do love about this competition, is that generally it's quite difficult to call. Right, let's go through some players. Nigerian goalkeeper, who's a favourite of yours on virtual football.
Yes.
Francis Uzoho.
Yes.
Thoughts on him?
He's a good goalkeeper. He's very young, obviously, in real life. I'm 11 years into a career, so he's
I think he's only 20. I think he's 20.
Yeah.
So...
And again, all of the keepers have a similar amount of caps. They had a stalwart in Yima for absolutely years, so I'm not quite sure who number one will be there. The other players obviously looking out for British fans looking across. Leon Balogun, centre-half at Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah.
They've got loads of midfielders you recognise. John Obi Mikel, Alex Iwobi, Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester, Peter Atebo from Stoke in the Championship, and Ahmed Musa was at Leicester recently. Odion Igalo, the list goes on. Kenneth Omaruo came through at Chelsea and played at Middlesbrough as well.
What I will say, and this is not a stereotype, but Nigeria do have that reputation that sometimes they can just implode. You know the way the French used to, where they can have one of the most talented squads in the whole tournament, but something just goes wrong. Like, I mean, at one point, I'm not even sure whether John Obi Mikel said he was going to play, whether he wasn't going to play. So it's just that sort of stuff that potentially their biggest downfall won't be the team in their group, it'll be themselves almost. So, and
one little fun fact from our last ramble of the season, they've got a German manager in charge for this tournament, and one of their defenders plays for Paderborn, who were the side who remarkably had 3 promotions in 2 years.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine actually, we had friends over from Germany, he was saying apart from the football team in Paderborn, nothing else there. So unfortunately...
Paderborn are the spirit of the town.
They are, that's it.
That's what we want. On to the other sides in the group. Let's move on to Guinea. They've got a couple of players you'll recognise. They have one absolute standout, Naby Keita from Liverpool.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of other players playing in England. So they've got a defender from Brentford, Julian Jemver. Probably not well pronounced.
No.
Ibrahim Cisse, who's played for Fulham in the Premier League this year. Obviously, they did end in relegation. And they've got a lot of good strikers from across Europe. So they've got a striker at Borussia Mönchengladbach and Bordeaux in France as well, and Auxerre too. So they've got plenty of familiar names, and they're going to be a decent side.
Yeah. Burundi. So in qualifying, Burundi actually...
well, I had a shock here half an hour ago, didn't I? When I was
No, but Burundi, in the qualifiers, they were unbeaten against Mali, who got a very, very strong side, and Gabon, who, as we say, they ended up clipping to get through. So I think it's quite an interesting group that. I think Burundi are not... I would say that Madagascar are probably slightly stronger, but for Burundi to be undefeated in those 2 games...
For English fans, or British fans, there are 2 names that are recognisable.
Go for it.
And one of them is probably for being the most out-of-form footballer in the country. I think you'll probably agree. So they have managed to persuade the man who was going to be the future of English football up front, Saido Berahino, is now playing for Burundi and has 5 caps. He could turn his career around this summer.
I don't think he will.
If he leads Burundi out of the group stages, he'll be a hero.
The problem is, though, he's had plenty of opportunities to lead teams that he's already played for. I think, as talented as a footballer is, I think he's proved that his attitude is questionable, and that's in a team where he's not the best player, whereas here, he's probably going to be the biggest name, if not the best player in the team. I can't see it working for him.
I mean, the only other one that's a big recognisable name to me in that team is Gal Bigaramana.
Yes,
played for Newcastle a bit back in the Pardew days in the Europa League and things like that, and he's now at Hibernian in the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah.
So I think he's one to look out for as well. It's going to be a tough task for him.
Yeah, I can't see Burundi getting through. Well, relying on Berahino to get him through is not the best strategy.
So are we agreed that Nigeria are going to win the group?
Yeah.
And who are we going for?
I'm going to go, and I know they're your favourite team, I'm going to go for an outside bet of Madagascar. So I think there's a certain maverick about them because they've got these players from France who are playing, a decent standard week in, week out, all of that.
I appreciate your optimism, but I think it's going to be Guinea.
Yeah.
And the first day, we're probably going to know the outcome for that because the first match day, the 4th match of the African Cup of Nations on the Saturday night, is Guinea v Madagascar.
Right, okay, yeah.
So day 2 we'll know which one of us is going to be. Presuming that Nigeria don't lose to Burundi.
No, but having said that, that's easily done as well. So Group C.
Yes.
Senegal, some big names here. Algeria.
Great top of the table tussle.
Kenya and Tanzania. Now, for me, before we go any further, Senegal are my probably favourites to win the whole thing. If you look at it, I mean, they've got some talented players. They've got a pedigree now. I think they get taken quite seriously, Senegal. Where I know from around 2002 when they obviously beat France, sort of there was
that World Cup run where Salif Diao and El Hadji Diouf got signed by Liverpool.
Papa Bouba Diop and like that. So no, for me, I think Senegal are probably the favourites overall. However, Algeria always got a strong side, got a good pedigree of players as well.
Well, I'm interested in this because later on, Senegal aren't my favourites. So we're going to have a bit of a disagreement on that.
Okay,
later.
go for it.
But they've got some cracking players. You're absolutely right about that. Sadio Mane.
Yes,
not a bad place to start.
Exactly, yeah.
Champions League winner. They've got Keita Balde from Inter Milan, who's a cracking player up there as well. Midfield Premier League players, one that you'll know well from West Ham again, before Cheku Kiarte.
Yeah,
now
brilliant.
Love it. Palace.
Yeah, love Kiarte.
Idrissa Gana Gueye, who was linked with PSG during the year, and they've got top quality European defenders, led by Koulibaly at Napoli, who was linked with the Premier League for all sorts of summers last summer.
No, I think and he said that, like we say, tournament, you haven't got a lot of time, so maybe top players played a lot of football stuff. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Anyway,
in theory, they should be pushed pretty close by Algeria. So a few standout players there.
Yeah, although I think Algeria's qualifying wasn't as strong as what it could have been.
No.
I mean, they got beaten by Gambia, which is a tiny country. It's like on the edge of... Is it Ivory? Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to pretend I know where that is. No,
we've fallen down on geography
no, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Having said that, Algeria, they've got some players who played at a decent standard and things.
So they've got, obviously their standout is Riyad Mahrez.
Yes, yeah.
They've got Islam Somani, who was also at Leicester for a little while. Guediora, who used to play for Wolves in the Premier League, now at Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
And another former West Ham player. How many of these countries have a former West Ham player? Soufiane Feghouli.
I mean, he was awful, to be brutally honest. But he had half an hour against Man United where he was unplayable. I watched him live, and then he got sent off because Phil Jones dived and made out he'd 2-footed him and he hadn't. His career completely plummeted at West Ham after that. But yeah, no. Senegal, I think, will be group winners. Kenya and Tanzania. I think they both probably outdone themselves. I think it's quite an effort to get this far. But to be fair, Kenya did beat Ghana, who probably not the best Ghana side that there's ever been, but still a massive.
And again, a side being affected by politics.
Exactly, yeah. But still beat them, so you've got to beat teams in front of you. So I think it's
they've obviously got one superstar, Kenya.
Yeah,
Victor Wanyama,
the legend it is. And then Tanzania, you've got their biggest player is Simon Musuveya, who he plays in Belgium. Yeah. Outside of that, is there many? I don't think.
It's one of the few teams I don't recognise many names from, so I'm interested to know. They've got a young midfielder who plays in Spain for Tenerife, which is something that I'd be interested to look out for. But aside from that, not many recognisable names.
I think unfortunately Tanzania will just sort of be happy to be there. But yeah, Senegal, possibly Kenya, but I think it will still be even a poor Algeria side, or not poor, sorry, an Algeria side in poor form will still probably get through.
So again, as you say, it's probably the Algerian side that turns up, which is important. It's going to be close between them and Kenya, I think. Yeah. Again, they're playing on the first match day. But Senegal definitely to win the group for me.
Group D. So Group D, Group of Death.
This is a brilliant.
Yeah, I mean these. If you can catch the fixtures, try and time these ones as best we can. Morocco, Ivory Coast, South Africa, and Namibia. I mean, in terms of unlucky draw, maybe Namibia will feel hard done by because those other three are massive footballing. Regardless of what type of squad they've got, they've always got a great reputation and always got what's I'm looking for, like they've always got good players, really, to be honest. So yeah, I think it'll be a tough one. But go for it, Dan. What have you got?
So the first game from this group is Morocco v Namibia, which is on Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And then the big one, Ivory Coast, South Africa, Monday afternoon.
That will be brilliant.
So for you, 4:30, you'll probably just be home in time for that.
No, I might even stay at work and watch it on. Oh no, yeah, Eurosport should be online. Oh, that because all the games are on Eurosport.
All the games are on Eurosport, and it's on the player as well if you've got that app.
Perfect. That's brilliant.
So let's go through the Morocco squad.
Yeah.
Roman Saiss from Wolves is the most recognisable name for me. Eunice Belanda is a player I recognise, and Ziyech, who's obviously been a bit of a star for Ajax in recent years.
Yeah.
Mehdi Benatia is another player I recognise, only because he used to play for Juventus and a couple of other sides around there. He's gone off abroad now. And they've got a young fullback, Achraf Hakimi, who's now at Borussia Dortmund, on loan, I think, from Real Madrid.
Right, okay. Ivory Coast?
Big players.
Yeah.
Well, more a rounded squad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think looking at it on paper, they don't necessarily have the egos that they maybe used to have. The big names. Which, to be fair, they did win stuff. So you can't say exactly. Yeah. So you got pronunciation again. Jean Seri, Frank Kessie, a few other lads like that. So
obviously, one from the Premier League, Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah, Wilfried Zaha, yeah.
Serge Aurier from Tottenham.
That's it. Serai D from Toulouse.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Sangari as well. So yeah, I think not necessarily the match or game turners that they maybe had previous, like Drogba, people like that. Torres, yeah. But still a great pedigree beside. So I think that'll be tough one. However, they've defensively has probably not been their strongest side, so leaking goals. But however, if you've got an attacking force,
one of the biggest problems for Ivory Coast is that their legend Boubacar Barry as we mentioned a bit earlier in the season, has
Oh yeah, he retired. Yes, the goalkeeper. Yeah,
the goalkeeping legend. So
Yeah.
I hope the next goalkeeper has got as good a celebration in the tank if he saves a penalty.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I imagine someone like Wilfred Zaha in this environment will thrive. You know, a lot of.
I'd like to hope so. Trickery,
exactly,
lower
yeah.
tempo,
A lot
ability
of, lot
to
of
take
space
on players.
probably. Yeah, so I think he'll do well. South Africa now. South Africa have been very up and down, haven't they? You know, go back to the 90s. There's some cracking players.
I mean,
then.
the first player I remember South Africa was Lucas Radebe,
Yes,
Sean Bartlett,
exactly.
all of those guys
Yeah.
come
And then a bit later on, Benny McCarthy.
Your favourite player?
Yeah, Tish Shabalala, who famously scored the only goal of the
great
World
goal in the World
Cup. So yeah, but this South Africa side is a bit more steady, a bit more defensively minded by African football standards. Still
Yes.
not exactly.
But sometimes that's played into their hands, being a more solid side. And what remarkably for a South African side, based on recent decades, almost all of their squad is entirely based in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
So quite a lot of their players are playing in the South African League. Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates dominating, as you would expect.
Yeah, of course.
But one player they have got playing in England is, again, you have to pronounce, excuse my pronunciation, is Mokotjo from Brentford. And they've also got Dean Furman, who played in England for quite a few years. And Talani Serrero, who's at Vitesse, but again has come from in England as well. So plenty of names that are recognisable there, but probably not their strongest.
I don't know if I can. I mean, Morocco had quite a good run. You know, they lost to Cameroon, but they then topped that group in the qualifying. I didn't realise Ivory Coast actually finished behind Guinea in their qualifying group. So
I didn't see that.
And then South Africa had to beat Libya because they drew with the Seychelles, which is quite
Not an ideal result.
No. Again, I think we can discount Namibia. I'll be amazed if they get anywhere near any of that.
I mean, the things you mentioned from qualifying do point out that there are some strange results.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing stopping that happening at the tournament.
So I remember the African Cup of Nations, I think it was only about 8 or 9 years ago, where Zambia beat Ivory Coast on penalties.
Yeah, definitely,
It's just a fantastic
Do you know,
tournament.
I'm going to be bold. I think the Ivory Coast will go through. And I think due to the fact that, like you said, South Africa having a lot of players based within the same team, bit more used to playing with each other. That's sometimes the difficulty you have with African football is that you get lads from literally all over Europe and Africa playing together suddenly to try and gel. So I'm going to go for Ivory Coast and South Africa out of that one.
I am in complete agreement with you. And unfortunately, the only team I don't think is going to stop them is Namibia. Ryan Niambi, the only recognisable player from Blackburn.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they've probably just not got enough in the side.
No.
They've got a lot of players, again, from the South African League, ironically, but a lot of them playing for sides lower down the table.
Group E, our penultimate group. Some interesting teams in this. Tunisia, Mali, Mauritania and Angola. So, Tunisia, Mali and Angola all won their groups, as you probably would expect. 3 quite big nations. More so Tunisia and Mali, but Angola have got, you know, some good players in there as well. Mauritania obviously first time qualifiers, and they were actually, and I didn't know how they worked this, but they've ended up in the same group as Angola, both in qualifying and in the draw. So they finished runners up to Angola in the qualifying stage. But yeah, they beat Burkina Faso in their last game, and that was enough to get them through. So
one of the things I would say from the Tunisia squad is it's quite a rare one, is it's one of the few squads that doesn't have a player from the British leagues.
Oh, okay.
But it does have another defender from Paderborn.
Go for it.
I'm very happy. Mohamed Draga.
Well, Tunisia, obviously, England played in the World Cup last year, so I mean, a lot can happen in a year. They were quite, not rugged, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they were quite...
Physical.
Physical, yes, that's it, yeah. Now, against the more... without being too stereotypical, against the more speedier, maybe West African sort of sides, you know, like Mali and that.
We're talking like a Wilfred Zaha.
Yeah, will
the
the physicalness of Tunisia keep up with that? I don't know. You know, it's interesting.
It's going to lead on to the big point about the tournament. We're probably going to mention with technology towards the end.
Yeah, definitely.
One other standout player for Tunisia, another player that's memorable from England. Wabi Kazri is in the squad. What a player he was. He could take a brilliant set piece and he couldn't do anything else.
Mali.
Yes.
Again, I mean, I used to love Freddie Canute, so I was always a Mali fan for that. I mean, brilliant footballer. They breezed through qualifying. I mean, they actually won their group on 15 points. So I think it's they're definitely going with form in terms of players. I don't know if there's any sort of standout ones there.
They've got a few. So they've got a couple of players playing in the British League. So they've got Mola Waggy, who's played for Leicester and he's at Nottingham Forest as well.
Yeah.
Yves Bissouma, who was signed for relatively big money at Brighton last year. Adama Traore.
Oh yes, yeah.
Not that Adama Traore.
No,
Thought I'd trick you into that one. He plays
for
US Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And Moussa Marega, who's a brilliant young striker at Porto. And they've also got a striker from Sporting Lisbon as well, playing up front together. So
Yeah.
his name is Abdoulaye Diaby.
Abdoulaye Diaby. Okay. Marciano, I don't really know anything about them, to be honest. From my limited, and I put inverted commas, limited research. Again, I mean, an amazing effort to get there. Have they got enough to get through that? I don't know. I mean, I think they might be relying on players who maybe are their heritage is Marciano, and then getting them in from there.
You say that, but they've got a lot of players with a lot of caps in the squad.
Right, oh,
so
okay.
I don't know whether they're one of the few that have decided to stick with what they had. There
Yeah.
are a couple that have come in who are from noticeably bigger clubs in terms of the ones that they've got their traditional squad from, who haven't got many caps, who I presume have been appealed to that way. But generally, it's a pretty good squad.
Yeah.
They've stuck with what they know, and I think they might be able to put up a decent fight as a result.
Okay. And the last team that they will eventually be playing is Angola.
Yes.
Again, another West African team quite often known for sort of pace, power, defensively not so much.
They used to have a young striker at Manchester United who never made it, and I can't remember his name.
If you do know, put it in the comments.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so I mean, Angola, those West African teams are so temperamental. You know,
You just never
particularly-
know what you're going to expect.
Like,
But that's the whole tournament. That's the beauty of it. Is there's a shock every time.
Exactly, yeah. So I think, is there any sort of stand-up players from Angola or not
So
really?
the only one from Angola for me is Bastos, who's a defender from Lazio, who's got 44 caps.
Right,
But
okay.
aside from that, no real stand-out names, which
No.
is probably a little bit different to them in the past.
So prediction for that group?
Well, my predictions for Group E, I'm predicting Mali to win the group.
Yeah.
And they're my dark horses to get to at least the semi-final of the
Okay,
tournament.
very good.
So I think they're going to be the shock this year. And alongside them, I'm going to go for Angola with Tunisia to go out of the group stages, despite being top seeds.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree with that, to be honest.
But they might get through in third, Tunisia.
And finally on to Group F. So, two big names here, but not in great form. So we've got Cameroon, Ghana, Benin and Guinea-Bissau.
So despite your talk about form, I think the winner's coming from this group.
Do you?
I do.
Who are you going for?
I am going to go for Cameroon.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I'm gonna hope for them pulling together after being stripped of the tournament.
Yeah.
They've still got some classy players in
Yeah.
there.
Well,
and
let's
I
start
hope
with them. They're the
they
first
get
sort of their first sort of team in the group. So, in terms of players that we should be looking out for from
Well,
Cameroon.
One failed player from England is Clinton and G, who went to Tottenham
Yes.
for big money and then went
Yeah.
away again. They've got Andre Frank Ngisa, who's been playing for Fulham in the Premier League this year, and they've got Gaitang Bong, the left back from Brighton Hove Albion. So it's a bit of an interesting one I've gone for them. I don't think they've got the best players. Again, they haven't got any superstars really.
No.
They've got PSG's biggest ever surprise signing, Eric Choupo-Moting, who's going to be leading their attack. I would
Famously,
imagine.
yeah.
The famous goal I missed for Stoke
exactly,
as well. And for PSG against Liverpool too. They've also got in goal Carlos Kameni, who's a very well-known goalkeeper, is a really good player, has been around the block. And they've also got Andre Onana, who's the Ajax goalkeeper, who obviously played in the Champions League semi-final.
Yeah.
But they haven't got superstars in terms of big attacking players that everyone knows. Apart from Choupo-Moting, probably not for the right reasons. But I still think they've got the team spirit to win it.
Yeah. Moving on to Ghana. So Ghana have actually they're going for the record of making it out of the group for a 7th time in a row.
I did not know that.
Apparently, yeah. So that's they've actually been in the final 4 in the last 6 tournaments. So, however,
there is a lot of political controversy
Yeah.
coming to this. We mentioned Gian in the last
Yeah.
ramble, and we have to again, unfortunately.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I mean Asamoah Gyan. You know, see, I went to Ghana in 2009, which they just had the African Cup of Nations.
Can we just point out you're wearing a very nice rip-off Stephen Appiah shirt?
Stephen Appiah, yeah. So we had, so I went there, and then obviously the following year was the World Cup when they had a great run, and really, despite Luis Suarez's, had it not been for Luis Suarez's handball, probably would have made it through to, was it the semi-finals? I think they were going. Yeah. So that was their. Even when I was over there the year before that, they were talking about this was their golden generation.
Yeah.
There's still a few remnants of that, the likes of Asamoah Gyan, Andre Ayew. However,
But it seems to be causing a bit of off the pitch trouble.
exactly, Asamoah Gyan, unfortunately, I think off the back of that World Cup, because he did have a cracking World Cup. That
We got his big move to Sunderland.
Exactly.
He went off to the Middle East and got big money playing.
yeah,
over
and
there
I
as
think
well.
his ego, unfortunately, now is almost too big. And basically, he was stripped of the captaincy, but then he decided to retire. He's now made himself available and all of this. It's just distracting from what is probably an already ageing Ghana squad.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ayew brothers, for all of the greatness that they maybe had 10 years
Another
ago.
one you've had a bad experience with.
Yeah, Andre Ayew was appalling. You know, I can't believe Swansea bought him after that. Jordan Ayew, I think, is always flattered to deceive wherever he's been. He's never quite lived up to it. It's a shame because Ghana is a footballing nation. You know, they're always behind, always well supported. They're the team I'd be supporting because I've been there, but I really can't see them. Might get out of the group, can't see them do much.
I think one of the things you pointed out perfectly is how much of an ageing squad it is.
Yeah.
It's probably the opposite way round to what you'd want. They've got an ageing attacking squad and a quite young defensive squad. But obviously they have got a bit of experience at the back. They've got the likes of Baba Rahman, who was at Chelsea for a little while, Jonathan Mensah, who's a well-known name, Andy Yeardom, who's at Reading, formerly played at Barnet and other clubs in England. They've got 3 very young goalkeepers, all 25 and under.
Yeah.
They've obviously got the Ayew brothers, as we mentioned. They've got Asamoah, who played at Juventus, now into Milan, and Christian Atsu of Newcastle.
Oh, of course,
United.
yes, I forgot. Yeah, he's gone in. Yes, tell yeah.
And then obviously, as you mentioned, Jordan Ayew up front, probably alongside Gian.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens with Gian and the atmosphere in the dressing room as a result of him is going to shape what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And if he's already, my opinion, if he's already pissed off, it more becomes about Asamoah Gyan than what it does about Ghana. So, which is
but
a shame.
let's hope it's not the case, because in terms of their fans and as a spectacle, one of the greatest countries in the African Cup of Nations.
Right, Benin. Now, you were surprised when you looked at the Benin squad. There was a couple of names that caught your eye. Benin have got a fairly old squad in comparison to maybe other teams in the competition.
A lot of caps, though. That's
exactly. Yeah, so might be outsiders. I mean, they qualified on the last day with a win. So I don't know. I mean, anyone who gets to the tournament's got to be decent.
And as we say, 16 of the 24 teams are getting through. So you've got the chance if you can nick that third spot.
And against maybe a poor Ghana team, a possibly shell-shocked Cameroon team, you never know.
You need to draw in one of those and get a big win against the bottom side in the group. And you're well on course.
So who to look out for in Benin then?
So the man to look out for up front is a man who had a good year in his first season in the Premier League, not so much last season, Steve Mooney of Huddersfield.
Yes, yeah.
Really decent player, good target man on his day, and I think it'll cause a few defensive problems.
Yeah.
And the only other player playing in England is Sessi Dalmeida, who is at Yeovil Town, who obviously just relegated out of the Football League. He's played for quite a few clubs in England coming through. They've got, as you've mentioned, pretty experienced squad, a lot of defenders in the 30s, an experienced goalkeeper as well. Again, as we've mentioned a few times, and as isn't too uncommon in Africa, quite a lot of players from French-based teams.
Yes, yeah.
And obviously French-based heritage as well. So.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally, a little, not so much known about them, but Guinea-Bissau, who also managed to get through on the last day in terms of qualifying. I don't know if they're necessarily... I mean, I think this is their second time they've qualified, so maybe they've learnt some stuff from that. I don't know if this might be a bit of a bridge too far, possibly.
Well, one of the interesting things for me in their squad in the end is that they've got the most uncapped players in their squad of any of the teams in the African Cup of Nations. Now, that suggests a couple of things. One could be they've gone for a lot of young players. Or the second one, which actually looks like it's the case, is they've gone and got players who are born in other countries with heritage again, because the players who were uncapped, if I give you some of the teams they play for, Fulham, Maritimo, Reims in France and Academica in Portugal. So we're talking about bigger clubs.
Who's it plays for Fulham then?
Playing for Fulham is Marcelo Diallo, who's a defender, certainly not a first teamer. I think he's been out on loan as well, to be honest.
Right, okay.
They've got a midfielder from Nottingham Forest called Pele, who's played for a few other clubs in England as well. Not quite the same standard as the original Pele, and a bit more defensive minded. Yeah. But I think they're going to spring a surprise in this group. They'll almost certainly nick third for me, and I think they might get through.
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say it, I don't. I think Cameroon will go through. I think no matter even a poor Cameroon's got enough. And like we said about Ghana, I think that all this off the field nonsense, the old squad, I think it might be too much against some young, hungrier players from Benin. So I'm with you. I think possibly. Cameroon and Benin.
So I'm going to go for Cameroon as the group winners. I'm going to go for I think Benin in second, Guinea-Bissau in third, and Ghana to finish bottom on 0 points.
I can see that happening, definitely.
I just think off the pitch distractions.
Yeah, it's all that rubbish that goes with it.
So that concludes the 24 teams. There is one other big talking point for this tournament, and that is it will see, just as the Women's World Cup has this summer, VAR employed.
Gosh, when's it? Is this from the beginning or
from the beginning of the tournament?
Right. Okay. I mean, if it's not difficult enough to then do it in somewhere that is maybe
thoughts on VAR, Charlie Best?
No, I think we've seen recently, even over the summer, like it's rubbish, isn't it? Let's be brutally honest. I appreciate that
it's going to work eventually. It isn't working yet.
Do you know what it is? For me, in terms of advancements we've had in football, the goal line, I actually give you that. At first I was against that, but I think it's quite good because it's clean cut. It's either over the line or it's not. This VAR, if a linesman gets the offside wrong, I know it can be detrimental to a team, but it's talking points in the game, and especially African football, it's the politest way possible. It's slow enough as it is. It probably doesn't need any more slowing down, and I think VAR at the minute, until it's maybe refined in another way that I don't know, it's only going to make the game a bit slower.
And one of the most enjoyable parts of the African Cup of Nations in the past has been some of the bizarre referees.
Exactly,
It's been brilliant to watch.
Well, yeah, let's be brutally honest. We watch it for two things: the crowd and the colour and the noise they bring, and the attacking, no holds barred football that every team in that
It's
competition is going to
fantastic.
play. So
you get 4-on-3s with half an hour to go. It's
and I
ridiculous.
don't want that to be disrupted because someone's toe was offside and they have to refer to VAR to do it. So I think, let the game flow. I just hope, particularly in African football, where sometimes people try and make a name for themselves, I really hope that it doesn't get in the way of some cracking games of football.
And before we finish this podcast, because we've nearly made a mistake before, I'm going to correct myself immediately.
Go for it.
VAR comes in from the quarterfinals.
Oh, sorry, quarterfinals, right? Okay, yeah.
So it's good that it won't close the group
Yeah.
stage, but arguably that annoys me even more having seen that, because
Why so?
we've mentioned it in other tournaments where it just comes in for the final. So like the Europa League,
okay.
final, things like that. I just
Yeah.
don't get it. Why bring it in halfway through the tournament?
That's true, yeah, I don't know.
And for the fact that there's 6 venues and 24 teams, there is a list of officials, okay?
Okay.
Referees, just referees, the list is 27 names long.
Right.
And for assistant referees, the list is 30 names long.
Right, okay.
Now, there aren't that many games.
No,
They're not
it's-
going to get many. Most of them are going to get one.
Yeah.
But there is a huge diversity in terms of nations.
Right.
There's a lot of referees from countries that have never had a referee in a tournament
That's
before,
good,
which
yeah.
is something just like the teams, it's great to see it for the,
Well, I
the
suppose
officials as
because
well.
of the expansion of the tournament means you need more referees, which obviously, as you then say, means you can get more referees from different parts of the continent, which is brilliant.
So I guess the last thing before we wrap up is information of the tournament. It
Well-
starts on the 21st of June.
Yeah, and hopefully everyone's got at least some sort of satellite provided TV. It's on Eurosport, so every single game is free. You don't have to faff around with subscriptions for this or Now TV for that or anything like that.
So,
Eurosport,
in the UK, shown on Eurosport.
a decent hour in the day.
It's been shown on TV in over 60 different countries, depending on providers,
Incredible.
which is absolutely brilliant. First match, 10 o'clock in the evening, on Friday the 21st
And that is?
June. That game is Egypt v Zimbabwe.
There we go.
So I hope you look forward to the African Nations Cup, and let us know how stupid our predictions are in the next month or so.